Karen was an outspoken resident of Maplewood Lane, known for her strong opinions and even stronger convictions. For years, she had come to believe that the curb space right in front of her home belonged to her. To Karen, it was as if the pavement had her name written all over it. She parked her car there every day and felt entitled to keep it clear of any other vehicles. In her mind, this was not just about parking, it was a matter of pride and ownership. Karen thought of herself as a guardian of that little stretch of road. Whenever someone parked in her space, she felt a rush of irritation, convinced they were disrespecting her territory. This mindset began to sour her relationships with her neighbors, who were often wary of crossing paths with her. They exchanged glances and whispers, unsure how to handle Karen's fierce attachment to the curb. Karen's sense of ownership led to escalating tensions in the neighborhood. She would often confront neighbors about their parking choices, which only made things more awkward at community gatherings. Her belief in owning the curb became not just an issue of space but a broader battle against what she saw as an invasion of her rights. Little did she know that this belief would soon lead her down a path filled with unexpected twists and turns, changing everything in Maplewood Lane forever. In the bustling neighborhood of Maplewood Lane, the Homeowners Association, HOA, played a crucial role in maintaining order and harmony. Comprised of elected members from the community, the HOA was responsible for enforcing the rules that govern property use and ensuring residents adhered to common standards. This included regulations about landscaping, home modifications, and, importantly, parking. The HOA's guidelines aimed to create a friendly atmosphere where everyone could enjoy their homes without conflict. They established clear rules about where residents could park, emphasizing that curb spaces were public and not owned by any individual. This meant that Karen's fierce belief in her ownership of the curb was at odds with the HOA's policies. When Karen began to confront her neighbors about their parking habits, it raised concerns within the association. The HOA received multiple complaints from residents who felt uncomfortable due to Karen's confrontational approach. In response, they organized meetings to discuss how to address the growing tension and reiterated their commitment to fair parking practices. As tensions escalated, the HOA decided to remind all residents of the rules regarding curb space. They drafted an email that would be sent out to every household, a friendly reminder that no one owns the curb and that everyone should respect shared spaces. This communication not only aimed to diffuse the situation but also highlighted the association's role as a mediator in community matters, ensuring a peaceful living environment for all. Frustrated by the ongoing parking issues, Karen made a bold decision: she would sue the Homeowners Association for allowing other cars to park in front of her house. In her mind, this was not just about parking, it was a battle for what she believed was her right. Armed with piles of complaints and her belief in ownership, Karen filed her lawsuit, thinking it would finally put an end to her frustrations. As the court date approached, she shared her plan with her neighbors, expecting some support. However, reactions were mixed. Some neighbors sympathized with Karen, understanding her feelings of annoyance over losing her space. Others, however, felt that she was overreacting and openly criticized her actions during casual conversations or gatherings. On the day of the small claims court hearing, Karen strode into the courtroom confidently. But as the judge reviewed the evidence and calmly explained that curb spaces are public property, Karen's hope began to fade. When the ruling came down against her, it felt like a personal defeat. The judge reminded her that everyone had equal rights to park there. Disheartened but undeterred, Karen left the courthouse with simmering anger. Instead of letting go, she decided to park illegally in front of a fire hydrant as a form of protest. Little did she know, this choice would lead to even more trouble the next morning when her car was towed, an outcome that sparked its own wave of reactions in Maplewood Lane. The day of the small claims court hearing arrived, and Karen felt a mix of determination and anxiety as she sat in the courtroom. She had prepared herself to argue her case, believing that her stance on owning the curb space was valid. As the judge listened to her complaints and examined the evidence, Karen's confidence began to waver. When the judge delivered the ruling, it was clear and direct: the curb was public property, accessible to all residents. This verdict shattered Karen's hopes and dreams of reclaiming her space. The judge's calm reminder that no one could claim ownership of the curb echoed in her mind as she left the courtroom, feeling crushed and defeated. Once outside, Karen struggled to process her emotions. She had expected to win and thought that her frustrations would finally be validated. Instead, she felt humiliated and angry. In a statement to a nearby reporter, she declared, "I just wanted to protect my home. It's not fair that others can park there without any respect for my feelings." Her words reflected her disappointment but also her unwillingness to back down. Determined to make a statement, Karen decided not to let this loss define her. That evening, she parked her car illegally in front of a fire hydrant, convinced that she needed to send a message about her fight for ownership. Little did she know that this decision would lead to even more challenges in her neighborhood. After losing her case in court, Karen's frustration boiled over into a defiant act of protest. In her mind, parking her car in front of a fire hydrant was not just a statement, it was her way of reclaiming control and challenging the ruling that had crushed her hopes. She felt wronged and believed that this action would show her neighbors, and the HOA, that she wouldn't back down so easily. As she left the courthouse that day, determination surged within her. Karen thought about how unfair it felt to have others park in her space while she was left powerless. Her mindset shifted from disappointment to a fierce resolve to take a stand, even if it meant breaking the law. "If they think they can just take my space without consequences, they're wrong," she muttered to herself. Karen parked her car defiantly, convinced that this bold move would send a message about her fight for ownership of the curb. She envisioned herself as a warrior standing against what she perceived as an invasion of her rights. Little did she know that this decision would backfire spectacularly when her car was towed the next morning. Yet, at that moment, all she could focus on was making sure everyone understood her frustration and determination not to be ignored. She felt empowered, ready for whatever came next, even if it meant facing more challenges in the neighborhood. The next morning, Karen woke up feeling a mix of anticipation and anxiety. She thought about her bold act of protest and imagined how her neighbors might react to her defiance. However, as she stepped outside to head to her car, a wave of dread washed over her when she noticed an empty space where her vehicle had been parked. Her heart raced as she scanned the street, hoping that perhaps she had parked it in the wrong spot or that it had simply been moved. But reality set in when she saw the bright yellow towing sign on the nearby fire hydrant. Karen felt a surge of anger and humiliation. Her protest had backfired spectacularly. "This can't be happening," she exclaimed, fists clenched in frustration. As she walked to where the tow company would have taken her car, a sense of defeat settled in. The very action she had taken to assert her rights now felt like another blow against her. Karen couldn't shake off the feeling that everyone was laughing at her misfortune. "This is so unfair," she muttered under her breath, replaying the events in her mind. Arriving at the tow yard only added to her dismay as she faced hefty fees to retrieve her car. The frustration peaked when she realized how futile her protest had been, reinforcing the HOA's point that no one owned the curb. Feeling both defeated and angry, Karen returned home with a heavy heart, unsure of what to do next in her ongoing battle for control over the space she believed was hers. In the wake of Karen's towing incident, the Homeowners Association decided it was time to address the situation directly. They drafted a neighborhood email that read, "Friendly reminder that no one owns the curb." This message aimed to clarify the parking rules and reinforce the idea that curb spaces were public property, accessible to all residents. The HOA understood that tensions in Maplewood Lane had escalated, and they hoped this reminder would help ease the mounting frustrations. Once the email circulated, responses from the community varied. Many neighbors chuckled at the situation, finding humor in Karen's predicament. Some took to their phones to reply with light-hearted comments on the Nextdoor app. "Guess we should all park in front of Karen's house for a change," one neighbor joked, while another suggested organizing rotating parking shifts specifically in front of her home. However, not everyone was amused. A few residents expressed concern about Karen's well-being, worried that her strong attachment to the curb might lead to further conflicts. Others felt that Karen needed to learn a lesson about community living in shared spaces. As neighbors began intentionally parking in front of Karen's house, it sparked a small movement of solidarity among them, balancing their sympathy with their desire for a little fun at her expense. What started as a serious issue had turned into a quirky neighborhood game, illustrating how quickly community dynamics could shift in Maplewood Lane. Feeling the weight of her misfortunes, Karen decided to share her experience on the Nextdoor app, hoping for some sympathy from her neighbors. She took a screenshot showing her empty driveway alongside the toe slip she had received. With resignation mixed with a touch of sarcasm, she posted her story, captioning it, "Guess I really don't own the curb after all." As the post went live, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Neighbors quickly jumped onto the thread, the comments flooding in with laughter and witty remarks. "This belongs in a parking hall of fame," one neighbor joked. Another chimed in, "If only we could start a GoFundMe for your car fees." The atmosphere shifted from tension to amusement as people enjoyed the drama that had unfolded. Soon enough, Karen's post became viral in their small neighborhood circle. Some residents even began sharing their own funny parking stories, creating a sense of community through shared experiences. It turned into an impromptu support group mixed with giggles about parking blunders. However, amidst the laughter were genuine notes of concern for Karen. A few neighbors offered kind words, suggesting they would help her strategize better ways to cope with the HOA regulations. Even though the situation had taken a humorous turn, it pulled at the heartstrings of some. They felt she needed backup rather than mockery. In an ironic twist, what was meant to be a shaming moment for Karen blossomed into something unexpected, a light-hearted reminder of their shared lives in Maplewood Lane. With the amusing turn of events surrounding Karen's towing incident, a new camaraderie began to blossom among the neighbors on Maplewood Lane. Inspired by the playful spirit stemming from her humorous Nextdoor post, residents started a light-hearted tradition of purposefully parking in front of Karen's house. It wasn't long before they organized rotating shifts, planning who would park where at what times. Each day felt like a mini celebration as neighbors took turns leaving their cars in her spot, grinning as they passed by. "I'll take the 3 p.m. slot today," one neighbor exclaimed, gleefully waving at Karen as he parked his sedan right in front of her driveway while she stood on her porch, arms crossed and fuming. The playful atmosphere expanded beyond just the parking antics. Neighbors exchanged jokes about their ownership of the curb and shared plans to add bumper stickers that proclaimed, "Proud owner of Maplewood Curb Space." Laughter filled the air as creative ideas flowed freely during impromptu gatherings on weekend mornings. Despite her frustration with this newfound game, Karen could not completely ignore how much fun everyone was having. There were moments when she caught herself chuckling softly at their antics, even if she didn't want to admit it. Her neighbors' determination to tease her softened some of the tension that had once existed, highlighting the resilience and closeness of their community. What started as a serious issue had transformed into a quirky reminder that sometimes laughter is the best way to cope with life's little challenges. In the weeks following the uproar over Karen's towing incident, a notable shift occurred not only in her attitude but also in her relationships with her neighbors. While she initially struggled with the embarrassment of being the subject of laughter, Karen began to see the humor in it all. Slowly, she joined in the neighborhood fun, even suggesting parking ideas during weekend gatherings. Karen learned valuable lessons about community and shared spaces, realizing that trying to control what everyone else did was not only fruitless but also damaging to friendships. She began to appreciate the spirit of camaraderie that had blossomed from her misstep. No longer focused solely on her desires, she started to understand and respect the idea that the curb was a shared space meant for everyone. By accepting her role in this light-hearted game, Karen gained a new perspective on cooperation and community living. She even became known as the Curb Queen, proudly helping her neighbors organize more playful events that revolved around their shared parking experiences. The once tense atmosphere transformed into one of laughter and collaboration. As a humorous conclusion, Karen's driveway became the unofficial parking lot of Maplewood Lane, yet she embraced it with open arms. In the end, what could have been a bitter struggle morphed into a vibrant testament to how community dynamics can change, proving that sometimes a little laughter is all it takes to turn conflict into connection.